There was a time when Sambisa Forest was not known for fear, it was not known for insurgency, it was not known for captivity, it was not known as the place many Nigerians came to associate with Boko Haram. Once, Sambisa was a protected forest and game reserve in Borno State. It was home to wildlife, safari activity, rare animals, conservation efforts, and tourism dreams. But over time, neglect, insecurity, weak governance, and insurgency changed its story. By the 2010s, Sambisa Forest had become one of the most infamous locations in Nigeria's security history, linked to Boko Haram camps, hostage captivity, and military operations. The forest lies in Borno State, southeast of Maiduguri, and has long been described as part of the wider Chad Basin National Park landscape. So how did a forest reserve become a symbol of terror? What made Sambisa attractive to Boko Haram? What impact did it have on Borno, Nigeria, and the Lake Chad region? And most importantly, how can Nigeria prevent other forest reserves from becoming safe spaces for violent groups? This is the story of Sambisa Forest. To tell the story of Sambisa, we must tell two stories at once. The first is the story of a forest. The second is the story of a country that failed to protect the forest, the communities around it, and the people who later suffered because of that failure. Sambisa did not become a haven for terror in one day. It happened gradually, through neglect, through abandoned conservation, through weak presence of the state, through poverty and insecurity, through the rise of Boko Haram, and through the geography of a forest that offered cover, distance, and difficult access. Sambisa Forest is located in Borno State in northeastern Nigeria. It sits southeast of Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, within the wider ecological zone connected to the Chad Basin National Park area. The forest landscape is part of the Sudan and Guinea savanna belt with open woodland, shrubs, thorny vegetation, and dry season cover that can make movement and visibility difficult. This geography matters. Sambisa is not a tropical rainforest like Cross River or the Niger Delta mangrove forests. It is a dry savanna woodland. There are open spaces. There are thick patches, there are thorny shrubs, there are seasonal changes, there are remote stretches, and there are communities around the wider area that depend on land, farming, grazing, firewood, water routes, and rural trade. In ordinary times, a forest like this can support wildlife, conservation, tourism, and local livelihoods. But in times of insecurity, that same landscape can become a hiding place. Long before it became associated with Boko Haram, Sambisa was part of Nigeria's conservation story. Historical accounts say the British colonial administration gazetted Sambisa as a forest reserve in 1958. Later, in 1977, it was regazetted as a national game reserve for wildlife preservation and tourism. At different times, the reserve was associated with wildlife such as elephants, antelopes, hyenas, leopards, lions, and bird species. It was meant to be a protected natural space, not a battlefield. Sambisa was supposed to represent what a serious conservation project could look like in northeastern Nigeria. A place for wildlife, a place for tourism, a place for research, a place for environmental protection, a place that could generate revenue and pride for Borno State. But protection requires management, and when management disappears, protected spaces become vulnerable. The tragedy of Sambisa did not begin with Boko Haram alone. It began earlier with the slow decline of the reserve. Roads became neglected, tourism collapsed, ranger presence weakened, wildlife protection reduced, poaching increased, local pressure on land and natural resources grew. Sambisa became a protected area mostly on paper, but not fully protected in practice. A forest without effective management becomes open to illegal activity. A reserve without rangers becomes exposed. A park without access control becomes vulnerable. A government asset without maintenance becomes abandoned. And abandoned spaces do not remain empty for long. This is one of the first lessons of Sambisa. Nature reserves are not just environmental assets, they are also security spaces. If the state leaves them unmanaged, someone else may move in. To understand why Sambisa later became important, we must understand the rise of Boko Haram. Boko Haram began as a radical movement in northeastern Nigeria and became a violent insurgency after clashes with the Nigerian state, especially following the 2009 crisis in Maiduguri and the killing of its founder, Mohammed Yusuf. From that point, the group became more violent, more secretive, and more militarized. The insurgency devastated Borno and spread across parts of Yobe, Adamawa, and the wider Lake Chad basin. The human cost has been enormous. Recent reporting and humanitarian sources continue to describe a conflict that has killed tens of thousands and displaced millions across the region. AP has reported that the Boko Haram conflict has caused at least 35,000 deaths and displaced over 2 million people, while UN humanitarian planning for 2025 recorded about 2.3 million internally displaced people in Nigeria's crisis-affected northeast. As security pressure increased in urban areas, Boko Haram needed places where it could hide, regroup, train, store supplies, and hold captives. Sambisa became one of those places. Sambisa became useful to Boko Haram for several reasons. First, it was remote. The forest and surrounding areas were far enough from major urban centers to provide distance from everyday government control. Second, it had natural cover. The vegetation, rough terrain, and dry season landscape could make movement difficult for outsiders. Third, it had weak state presence. If a reserve has no strong rangers, no effective monitoring, no functioning tourism, no regular patrols, and no trusted community reporting system, it becomes easier for armed groups to exploit it. Fourth, it was close to affected communities. From a security perspective, Sambisa sat within a wider zone of conflict where Boko Haram could threaten villages, move captives, and use fear to control rural life. Fifth, the insurgency had local knowledge. Armed groups often survive in difficult terrain because they understand footpaths, water points, abandoned structures, and surrounding communities better than outsiders. A 2017 academic paper on Sambisa and Boko Haram described conflict-affected forests as attractive to armed groups because of remoteness, seclusion, inaccessibility, and the ability to provide refuge, food, and resources. This is the heart of the Sambisa story. The forest was not dangerous by itself. It became dangerous because governance failed, insecurity spread, and Boko Haram used the abandoned space for violent purposes. For many Nigerians and people around the world, Sambisa became widely known after the Chibok schoolgirls' kidnapping. On April 14, 2014, Boko Haram abducted 276 schoolgirls from Government Girls Secondary School in Chibok, Borno State. The kidnapping became one of the most internationally recognized crimes of the insurgency. The Combating Terrorism Center at West Point reported that the abducted girls were taken toward Boko Haram's base in Sambisa Forest. After that, Sambisa became more than a forest. It became a symbol of captivity, a symbol of fear, a symbol of state failure, a symbol of mothers waiting, a symbol of a crisis the world could no longer ignore. But Chibok was not the only tragedy connected to the forest. Many women, children, farmers, travelers and villagers suffered in the wider conflict around Sambisa and the northeast. Over the years, the Nigerian military launched several operations in and around Sambisa Forest to dislodge Boko Haram, rescue captives and recover territory. The forest became one of the major symbols of the counterinsurgency war. But fighting in forest terrain is never simple. The area was difficult. The insurgents had local familiarity. There were risks to civilians and captives. There were fears of explosives and hidden dangers. And the conflict was not only military, it was social, humanitarian, environmental, and political. Reports over the years have described rescues of women and children from Sambisa and its surroundings, showing how the forest was used as a place of captivity. In 2024, AP reported the rescue of hundreds of hostages, mostly women and children, from Boko Haram extremists in northeastern Nigeria, with some having been held for years in Sambisa Forest. Even when camps were cleared, the wider problem did not disappear completely, because the real challenge was not only removing fighters from the forest, it was preventing the forest and surrounding communities from falling back into insecurity. The impact of Sambisa's transformation into an insurgent haven was devastating. Communities around the forest were attacked, displaced, and traumatized. Farmers could not freely access farmland. Trade routes became dangerous. Families fled to towns and camps. Children lost school years. Women and girls faced abduction and abuse. Local economies collapsed. Trust between citizens and the state weakened. Human Rights Watch reported that as of July 2022, the Boko Haram conflict had displaced about 2.2 million people in northeast Nigeria, with the vast majority in Borno State. This is why Sambisa cannot be discussed only as a military location. It is also a humanitarian story. Every abandoned village, every displaced family, every closed school, every lost farm, and every traumatized child is part of the Sambisa story. The forest itself also suffered. Conflict damages the environment. Wildlife disappears. Trees are cut. Roads collapse. Lodges are destroyed. Rangers leave. Conservation data becomes outdated. Research stops. Tourism dies. Sambisa was once connected to conservation and tourism dreams, but the insurgency helped turn it into a militarized and degraded landscape. Environmental histories of Sambisa describe how a reserve once associated with wildlife and tourism became linked with conflict, abandonment, and destruction. This is another lesson. When security collapses, the environment becomes a victim too. And when the environment collapses, communities lose livelihoods. This creates a cycle. Insecurity destroys livelihoods. Lost livelihoods create desperation, and desperation creates new openings for armed groups. Sambisa teaches Nigeria that a forest reserve can become a security threat when 5 things happen. 1. The government stops managing it properly. 2. Communities around it feel abandoned. 3. Security agencies lack reliable intelligence. 4. Young people around the area lack jobs, education, and opportunity. 5. Armed groups discover that the land gives them cover. A forest reserve is supposed to be watched, protected, mapped, maintained and connected to local communities. When it is neglected, it becomes a blind spot. And in national security, blind spots are dangerous. The first step is to stop treating forest reserves as empty land. Forest reserves should be treated as national assets. They need rangers, they need roads, they need communication systems, they need conservation officers, they need nearby communities to benefit legally from their protection. They need technology for monitoring. They need clear boundaries. They need regular audits. They need security risk assessments. Nigeria cannot protect forests only when terrorists enter them. Protection must begin before crisis. The first major lesson is forest governance. Every major forest reserve should have a functioning management structure. Who is responsible for it? Who patrols it? Who reports suspicious activity? Who maintains access roads? Who protects wildlife? Who works with nearby communities? Who monitors illegal logging, mining, poaching, and settlement? If nobody can answer these questions clearly, the reserve is already vulnerable. A forest reserve without governance is an invitation to criminal control. The second lesson is community intelligence. People living around forests usually notice things first. They notice strange movement. They notice abandoned paths becoming active. They notice missing young people. They notice new armed strangers. They notice unusual buying patterns. They notice fear spreading, but people will only report what they see if they trust the authorities. If communities fear both terrorists and security forces, they may stay silent. So Nigeria must build a trusted early warning system. That means local leaders, women's groups, youth groups, farmers, herders, traders, hunters, vigilante groups, and official security agencies must have clear, safe, and accountable channels for reporting danger. The third lesson is livelihoods. You cannot secure a forest while ignoring the people around it. If communities around forest reserves are hungry, unemployed, displaced, or abandoned, insecurity will keep returning. People need farms, they need schools, they need clinics, they need markets, they need roads, they need water, they need jobs, they need dignity. The fight against terrorism is not only fought with weapons, it is also fought with governance. A young person with a future is harder to recruit into violence. A community that benefits from a forest is more likely to protect it. The fourth lesson is technology. Nigeria should use satellite imagery, conservation drones, digital mapping, radio communication, ranger tracking, emergency hotlines, and environmental data to monitor forest reserves. But technology alone is not enough. A drone cannot replace community trust. A satellite cannot replace local knowledge. A database cannot replace honest governance. Technology should support people, not replace them. The goal is simple. No major forest reserve should become a blind spot. The fifth lesson is prevention. Nigeria often responds after a crisis has already become deadly. But Sambisa shows that prevention is cheaper than rescue. It is cheaper to maintain a forest reserve than to fight a war inside it. It is cheaper to build schools than to rescue abducted children. It is cheaper to support communities than to rebuild destroyed towns. It is cheaper to monitor a reserve than to reclaim it from armed groups. Security must become preventive, not only reactive. The sixth lesson is about displaced people. When communities are displaced by conflict, returning them home must be done carefully. People need security, food, shelter, water, healthcare, schools, and livelihoods. Sending people back to unsafe or unsupported areas can deepen suffering and create new instability. Human Rights Watch has warned in the past that camp closures and returns in Borno left some displaced people facing hardship and fear when support and safety were not adequate. A proper return process should not just move people out of camps, it should restore life. The seventh lesson is regional cooperation. Boko Haram and related armed groups do not respect borders. The Lake Chad Basin connects Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. People move across borders. Trade crosses borders. Armed groups exploit borders. Refugees cross borders. Weapons and supplies can also move across borders. So, forest security in Nigeria must connect with wider regional security. No country can solve the Lake Chad crisis alone. Can Sambisa be restored? Yes, but not by wishful thinking. Restoration would require security, governance, environmental recovery, and community rebuilding. It would require clearing danger from the land. It would require protecting returning communities. It would require restoring wildlife and conservation systems. It would require rebuilding trust. It would require giving local people a stake in peace. A forest that became a symbol of fear can become a symbol of recovery, but only if Nigeria learns the lesson. The story of Sambisa Forest is not just about Boko Haram. It is about what happens when land is abandoned. It is about what happens when communities are neglected. It is about what happens when conservation fails. It is about what happens when insecurity grows faster than governance. Sambisa was once a game reserve. Then it became a hiding place. Then it became a battlefield. Now, it must become a lesson. Nigeria must never again wait until forests become terrorist havens before paying attention to them. Every forest reserve must be governed. Every nearby community must be supported. Every warning sign must be taken seriously. Every abandoned state asset must be reclaimed before criminals reclaim it. Because the tragedy of Sambisa is not only that Boko Haram used the forest. The deeper tragedy is that the forest was left vulnerable enough to be used. And if Nigeria wants to prevent the next Sambisa, it must protect its forests, protect its communities, and build a state presence that people can trust. If you found this story important, subscribe to Nigerian Encyclopedia for more documentaries on the people, places, and events that shaped Nigeria. In the next episode, we will look at another forgotten place in Nigerian history and why it still matters today.